No, it's raining. Well, there's only 4 people watching on Facebook, so we may as well not bother. I don't know what else is on. What's on TV at this time on a Monday?
Who knows?
It is 4020 live. Oh, and we are live. No, Matt Wilson, he's self-isolating at the minute.
He rang us up this afternoon and said, I'm not coming.
He's
So
all right.
we've assumed he's self-isolated.
He'll be
We
back.
might ring you.
We might do. We'll see if he's listening. If he's listening, he might ring us. We should start doing a live.
I think it's quite offensive if he's not listening. He should be getting on board, shouldn't he? Supporting from afar.
Supportive of his teammates.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
4020 magazine's Danica's here. Because she
Because you texted me late and said, can you come in?
don't let people into
Really,
it.
they want me.
Don't let the
Yeah.
light on magic.
No, I mean, I would have invited you in anyway.
You're always
Eventually.
welcome.
Yeah.
The fans love you. I say fans, I don't know, it's the forum.
Yeah. I'm not-
Facebook.
I just kind of look after this operation. I'm gonna, sometimes. Good evening, Catherine. She's watching. Disconnecting the chat. Oh, it's alright. 42. We're live. Dream Team tonight says Barnstonworth 101.
Barnstonworth.
He's a fan.
Dream team. I like that.
2 Rhinos. And look, they're good now, aren't they? Look, they beat Toronto, who were rubbish. 66-12.
Could I just say, if there's anybody watching from Ottawa Aces, hello.
Hi. Do you know the
Welcome
Canadian national
aboard.
anthem is one of my favourites? There you go.
Well,
What's
let's let them in on the basis of that
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah,
What's
there
your
we go.
favourite national anthem? Get into it.
No, it's one of them. One of them.
One of them.
Yeah.
Do you have like a long list of favourite national anthems?
No.
Just the Canadian one?
English ones, obviously, up there,
Yeah.
just because it has to be.
And you've
Maybe,
sung it.
I like
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea's because it says Papua New Guinea at the end of it. That's good.
Where
Ireland.
Where do we
Yeah, which
start?
island one? The official island one or
Sure,
the rugby
the-
one? But that's not an official anthem, is it? That's just a
Something
made up
similar
song from the
weekends.
rugby union. Where should we start?
Well, should we
Should we-
start with Ottawa? Because that is the big news in case people
Ottawa are in.
have missed it this afternoon.
Mm.
Are you giddy?
I mean, expansion's a great thing, isn't it? And that's
Well,
what you want.
Done properly.
Yeah, done properly. And from what's been said so far, says training England still, aren't they? They've, was it a few weeks until they're selecting any head coaches or anything?
You mean announcing or
Announcing, yeah, sorry. Well, it depends what you think, doesn't it? Want to generate more of a pool from Canada, don't they?
But they're not going to spend the salary cap.
Yeah. Interesting.
So there are
There's gaps.
cracks in the pavement.
Would it be rugby league for one?
It just seems odd that they're saying that they want to promote Canadian American players. Brilliant.
Yeah.
There aren't any Canadian American players at the moment who are a semi-professional standard.
And also,
So
Yeah.
they are going to have to recruit a team from predominantly over here, which goes against what they were saying. They want to meet and play Toronto at some stage, but they're not if they're not going to spend the salary cap to get out of League One. My biggest worry at the moment is what is going to happen to League One. So it's all very well and commendable that Simon Johnson is there at the launch in the capital of Canada. But how can you plan further ahead than even tomorrow if you don't know what the finances are going to be?
well, this is it. This was my first point, and I just said I'm all for expansion, but there's just too many. We're not a strong enough sport yet, are we? In the sense that financially or with structure, we just need to give ourselves a good few years just to really solidify what we're doing. And with Toronto is great, and it's been fantastic. They've been very successful. They've got great crowds out there. Their interest in rugby league in Canada has increased. I'd say probably 99.9%.
The Ravens are in the World
Yeah.
Cup.
The Ravens, yeah, who are a fantastic group. So yeah, there's lots of positives in the long term, but there's too many grey areas, isn't there? There's too many missing gaps.
I like the idea of new markets for spectators and potential talent.
Mm.
But I just think it's very, very hard to predict what the future is going to look like for teams at the bottom end of the semi-professional ranks if they don't get central funding in a year and a half's time. But at the same time as we can't answer that question because we don't know how the television negotiations are going to go and if they're going to be above a threshold whereby there is a filter down to League One, we're also saying we're going to bring New York in next year for one game.
Oh yeah.
Potentially one game. I mean, they may win it. Which raises two questions. One is, A, what's the point of that? How do you recruit a team to be in a cup competition?
Well, we might find out tomorrow.
But B, what happens if you lose it? You know, with the greatest respect to Kells, who they might draw in the first round of the challenge, and they were to lose, what does that do to your New York brand? Because Red Star Belgrade did the same thing last year. They came in, said, we want to be in League One, we'll play in the Challenge Cup as a precursor, lost at Millham, haven't come in. It's just a very dangerous game at the moment to be having pieces but not seeing how they fit together.
But then what's the alternative to that?
Well, we're so close at the moment to 2021 and a TV deal. Unless a new club can bring some new money with it, a TV deal, major sponsorship. I mean, watched quite a bit of what Eric Perez has said and been reported on, but we haven't yet had details of who the financial backers are of this Ottawa bid. Now that might be because he bought an existing licence and therefore, in a way, blindsided the competition into giving him a place. But all of that, I think, is continued. The trials and tribulations of Toronto and the fact that they have not taken any money from central funding and are still talking about disadvantage that they have. We haven't given them the best chance to succeed, but we're offering that to another club and another club potentially behind that. I just think we've got to map out what our policy is on expansion.
Yeah, that's it. But who's in with the RFL and the best will in the world? There needs to be a dedicated person for that job, isn't there? And there
Quite.
There's so many people pulled in different angles in the RFL. They've got many umbrellas. But yeah, has anybody sat down with Toronto and said, let's see the structuring, let's see the last 3 years, let's see the... Because that would be, it's essentially just a little mini research project for somebody. I say mini, it's quite a big one. Let's say it's more of a master's thesis, isn't it? Who has sat down and gone, right, let's get them together, let's see the expansion. It's only going to help Toronto out if, there's more Canadians be involved, the sport's getting bigger, there's more investors.
Well, here's Carsten.
Yes.
Didn't Eric Perez say the same stuff about players when Toronto came in?
Yes. It's gone from we want a team full of Canadian players, which is what he said with Toronto, which he said initially when Ottawa were on the map, to we'd like to have some players, but we're going to start with having a team over here. And again, I think there needs to be a developmental payback. Is he working with the Canadian Domestic Rugby League? Because nobody seems to mention them.
But then there's a point, if you do get the Canadian players over and they're training in England, you've got the added expense of bringing these players over and housing and accommodating them because the part-time salary is not going to...
Well, and I think the other thing that we found is that because we're not getting more and more players into the game who are ready to play at a semi-professional level, because we've now got reserve teams, which is an extra grade to find players for, because we've got dual registration and the loan system, we're trying to recycle the same bunch of players. It's not like there are 30 young kids who are not getting an opportunity. So when Ottawa do come in, and they are based here, and they are using predominantly players that are currently playing in the existing League One as it is at the moment, it's only going to be taking those players from existing teams. It's not giving new opportunities. So the whole thing needs a policy document.
Look what happens tomorrow, what might film in the future. But look what happens tomorrow. New York are going to be launched. And you'll be a fan of this, Danica, because I know you are a fan of this stuff. Stash, right? Their gear, because I had a sneak peek of it the other day. It's lovely. It's very nice. It's very nice. People like it. But, going back to what I said 3 years ago, they sell merchandise, but they're not a team yet. Well, they were going to be a team next year. We're going to see them in the Challenge Cup.
But they're not going to sign big name Australian players to play in a Challenge Cup tie.
You wouldn't think so.
Or in the third tier of English football.
Let's be fair, anything's possible, isn't it? If there's a bit of money in there.
That's also true.
Yes.
And if.
But there has to be a blueprint. You have to be working to a plan.
Yeah, you should be.
Yes. Well, you have to. Any business does.
Well, yeah, you could say that, and then depends on who you got as your strategic manager, doesn't it? Because that's the like Toronto. You could say lots about them and the way they've spent their money or not spent their money or whatever else. Have they stuck to a strategic plan in order to make them successful?
What they have done, irrespective of how it works out at the end of the season, and no doubt we'll come on to what they're doing on the field, they found an investor who didn't have any knowledge or interest in rugby league, who has spent upwards of $20 million.
Yeah.
Now, as a sport, we need to find more people like that and keep them involved, rather than say, here's loads of restrictions, why don't you eventually go and fund a rugby union team?
Which is the only time that I would really support the whole New York and Ottawa thing, because we know that America and Canada, as sporting nations, are huge. Like, sport is so important even at high school, college level. You look at the stadiums they play at, where they're getting in, 30,000 people watching an American football game. So there are people who love sport in very big countries. That means that there's more investors or more people potentially interested. So there could be some kind of sidelining investor that they're not going to release yet, or however. And that's why you're hitting, like, Red Star Belgrave. That's not the country that screams money to you, is it? Or investors. Whereas, you're looking at America and Canada that don't have rugby league, or it's not very big.
But the thing about the limited amount I know about American and Canadian sport is backers and fans love it at elite level, because you either watch the very best.
I mean, you've got the college sport is very well out there.
But there's no amateur sport. The college sport is to find the 1% of players that can go on and play at the very top professional level, and there's nothing in the middle. But they're used to seeing the best. So again, Ottawa saying at some point we'd love to join Toronto in Super League, which of course assumes that Toronto aren't going to get relegated because we haven't ring fenced them. Thing about that is their avowed aim should be, we actually don't want to be in League One. We're coming in with a huge major backer and television contract into Super League, or
so
as you'll be able to read.
There should be a programme in Canada, a talent ID programme in schools and colleges, where, because their athleticism is second to none. There's plenty of sports people in America or Canada that you can train to be very good rugby league players.
But that takes either a lot of time or a lot of money to get round that time. So should that be part of any bid process, that you want to come into our competition?
If you're wanting to,
let's see your
if
talent
you genuinely
ID
want
program.
to, if you genuinely want to develop talent from that country to rugby league, if you just want to have a name and, like you say, then come over here and use other League One players, then no, it's different. But there's not, like you said, there's no definitive structure. There's no definitive like yes or no to that. So we can speculate and talk about we'll never ever know the answer until it happens.
But you could read the new issue of Forty20 magazine, out on Friday,
yes,
where there is a proposal for NRL Europe to come into play.
Ooh, interesting.
Which contains the traditional.
Should it be NRL Northern Hemisphere?
Well, it's Europe because it's administered from Europe, but yes, it includes the Americas. But the eastern side of America would come under Super League, and the western side of America under the NRL. But what it is I won't tell you because you may want to read it.
Obviously, yeah.
But it's a blueprint. Now, it might not be the right one, and it might not even be one that anybody buys into, but it's the blank sheet of paper starting point that if you're going to have expansion, you have to work towards something. Yeah. And my worry at the moment with what Ottawa are saying and New York are saying and how Toronto are struggling with some of the rules and regulations that are holding them back rather than moving them forward. Nobody really seems to know what the expansion policy of the sport is, and to be fair, they haven't for 125 years, because we've always had expansion and never done it properly. We've got a team in Coventry at the moment who we love, and there was a team in Coventry in the 1910s.
Yeah.
We've had teams in the North East.
I mean, I'm all for like developing I'd love to see Cumbria grow. You know, could we not expand up there?
If we know what the plan is,
Yeah.
what the cost is, whether the
I think the cost of expanding Cumbria would
infrastructure
be.
and industry is there to support it, and there are enough people. There's no reason why there shouldn't be. But
I reckon Cumbria would be significantly less than it would be
for them, they need to decide, is there anything they could do as a joint enterprise rather than individual areas, because the individual areas can't support teams at the very highest level. So if you're going to have Cumbria and it's going to encompass everything in Cumbria, will the public there buy into that? And they can still have their own teams as feeders into the overarching Cumbrian Lakers, whatever happens.
Cumbrian Lakers.
Merged
with Liverpool.
But everybody's got to buy into it in the region to make it. Well, they're like Catalan Dragons. They aren't called Perpignan for a reason, because they appeal to everybody from the border of Spain right up to north of because the name is for the region.
Yeah.
And if Cumbria was going to work, I think it would have to be on the same model. And maybe the same.
But then, is that expansion or not?
Not necessarily Cumbria, but
yeah. So
you could. But if you've got a model and you take that model to Scotland, and
need a
to
good model,
Ireland, and to Wales, then yes. My reservation at the moment with Ottawa, desperately wanting it to succeed, but my reservation is that it seems to be a very different model to what we had with Toronto and other expansion ideas, and I don't know how it all fits together.
Just looking at this, they did a poll in Rugby League Express. It's called Rugby League, or whatever it's called, League Express, about what they wanted to see on Rugby League Backchat TV, which you were on. You were on the telly. 38% said current and former players. We've got current and former players. That's good. 2% said
current, not former.
Well,
Bit of both.
Former England, yeah. Play.
The truth.
Yeah, I didn't mean it.
It's harsh though.
Player agents, 2%, even below journalists. To be fair, some prefer to hear from neither. There you go. England squad announced last, but it's not a squad.
No,
it's not a squad.
You are
it is
not
a squad. It's not a
allowed
squad.
to call it.
They're having a meeting at Old Trafford next week.
Sean Wayne.
They're doing the tour.
Slap the back of your hand
Really?
if you use the word squad. It's an invitation.
That's an easy way to get him on then, isn't it? Keep calling the squad. He might come and join you.
They're doing the tour. You're going to have a look around the gift shop, buy some shirts.
Pictures taken under the statues.
And all that kind of stuff. Well, it's no point discussing the people inviting them, is it? Because it doesn't matter, because they're not in a squad. It's just a thing that has been announced.
I think the interesting...
And the Knights, which is a squad. Oh, no, it's not a squad either.
The interesting omission for me from the
England invitees
is Jackson Hastings.
And Blake Austin.
Not
Great Britain internationals, Jackson Hastings.
The thing about Jackson Hastings, I think, is he's made a pretty unequivocal commitment to the cause.
Until he goes to Gloucester.
He said all the right things
Yeah.
when he was selecting his commitment and all that kind of thing. But Sean Wayne has clearly got a principle of, I'm only going to pick people on form. Well, there aren't too many in better form than Jackson Hastings at the moment. So he's presumably not picked him because he is a heritage player. I think that's he's an interesting absentee, because with the change in eligibility laws at international level now, he can't play for Australia. So he has made that commitment. His commitment has to be to only ever play for England and or Great Britain.
Well, I think I'm totally with you, and I think he is by far the best half in the league at the minute. But Sean Wayne has made it quite perfectly clear that if he has a player that was born and bred and versus a player of heritage, and they were the same.
Yes.
He would pick the born and bred over heritage, which you can argue absolutely. It's an England squad. However, he has made that step over. He has played. If you are playing now to win and you are playing to build your squad, you'd be stupid to leave him out, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But
I just think, great Luke Gale's back.
Yeah.
And it may well be that the half-back partnership by the end of this season is Johnny Lomax, who he's clear he's going to play in his preferred position of standoff.
Right.
And Luke Gale. But at the moment, if you were going to pick that team because they were playing tomorrow, it might be Johnny Lomax and Jackson Hastings.
Oh yeah, because I think with Luke, like he's on good form and he's doing really well for Leeds, obviously.
But he's 5 games into a 2-year comeback.
But also, going on history, nobody likes to, old form. He was great, but it came to the big, big song and dance. He never really made that much of an impact, or
Was
that due to the coach?
He was playing.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
tactically.
But like, who knows?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. So therefore, you need to throw him in and give him a chance. But also, he needs to not rectify because it wasn't anything by mistake. But he just needs to justify his position and his ability and his quality by playing well in that as well.
Which is why you need a mid-season international.
Yeah, but at the minute,
That we
you would
haven't
pick
got.
Hastings over Luke Gale.
Which is, I think, Sean Wayne is making a statement that clearly heritage players are not for him.
Yeah.
Now, that's fine. I just think that if you're going to then balance that with I'm only going to pick people on form, and there are some interesting selections there where he is clearly going with guys who have made a good start to the season. He's left some out who perhaps have been picked on reputation before. So Gareth Widdup would be an example. Not picking Hastings goes against that. You can't have both. I don't think.
Oh.
Having said that, I just my biggest bugbear is that we aren't preparing for an international in June. And if you were calling people in now, you could genuinely call them a squad. He's saying, I don't need a game, I just need to fill all these guys we're selecting with the way that I want to play and the belief system that we get all of that. But he's not going to have very long once the World Cup comes around if he hasn't had things like a mid-season international this year to have a look at how, if Luke Gale's making the step up.
But then he is going around, isn't he? And he is getting to games and he is watching players, which is probably one of the best ways to do it, I think, because you see the bad, the good, the ugly. You'll see, the likes of Luke Gale, let's say, go against Toronto and look very good. And he could have taken a lot of ball himself. They still went through the plays. They still played to structure, which was great. Which is not often at that score. You tend to just go off, don't you, and throw the ball around. And then I reckon, hopefully, touch wood, that they all go to Catalan and it's all fine. That will be a good test for Luke. That's the other flip of the coin. Yeah, against exactly James Maloney. And I think it's about seeing that side of it as well, which is just as useful. The only thing you don't get much of is that the pairing together. However, if Sean's so confident in who he's selecting, then he needs to know how they work together, or needs to be confident in the way that their style of play. Because Luke is a leader on the field, and he's an organiser.
Who's going to be the captain? Because Sean O'Loughlin is another absentee.
Yeah.
And he said he obviously
I heard
was going to retire at the end of the year.
I heard you on TalkSport 2 the other night say your potential surprise England captain
Would be?
I think the kind of guy who Sean Wayne relates to and
I'm going to watch Danica's first year.
and thinks is the sort of bloke that can rally the troops and will play unequivocally the way the coach wants him to play is Zach Hardacre. Which will
I want to play poker against him.
Which will give a lie to the fact that the reason Sean Wayne left Wigan was because they signed Zach Hardacre. I don't think it had anything to do with it.
Wow, that's a curveball, that is, Phil. I don't know if he's a selfless enough player.
I think he's the kind of player that Sean feels he can work with. In that kind of camp environment where I need to give you responsibility because I need to harness your talent.
So as a coach role, Zach is good because if you get him on board in a leadership role, whether it be captain or just on the leadership squad, you are therefore, that's a bit of a psychologically keeping him in track, isn't it, by saying I need you to be on form.
I value you.
And I think you can do that by being in a leadership team of like 4 or 5. I don't think it's a captain, me personally, but you can still have a very good impact.
My choice. I just think the way Sean Wayne is talking, looking at who is in that squad, he'll want somebody who I think he can mould.
Yeah.
In the same way that he did with Sean O'Loughlin. I think he wants to. The base of his style of play will be what he did at Wigan.
Yeah.
So he'll want somebody, I think, ideally, who is playing at the moment in that kind of... It's Adrian Lamb's style, but there's a Wigan element to it. And they're not top of the league for nothing at the moment. I think looking at all of the Wigan players that are in there, he'd be the one. Because I think that he's the kind of guy that Sean will relate to.
I don't know.
But that's...
No, it's an interesting... I agree, like, you've got an interesting argument. I don't know if he's been back long enough. You know, he found his feet last season. He's come back. He's on great form. He is doing well. Let him concentrate.
Versatile enough to play anywhere in that England back.
Let him concentrate on his own. Let him concentrate on his own game. Let him concentrate on keeping himself going. Let him get through a couple of seasons without any off the field.
I think it will be 2 seasons by the Ashes. It'll be 3 by the World Cup.
Yeah.
And although Sean Wayne is saying I'm not looking at the World Cup, it has to be.
But will he take that role and flourish, or will he take it, put too much pressure on himself, which I don't know if he needs. I mean, I've not got an answer to it. I've not got an answer of who I think should or would be.
Anyway, I thought I'd throw that in the mix.
Well,
Twitter explodes and people say, nah.
Phil wants drug testing, stop Phil's beer, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
More chance me playing on the wing. I'm in training, Steve. Well, I've been walking up some stairs anyway. Through my steps.
Didn't say it'd be my choice. I was looking at it from some of the things that Sean Wayne is saying about what he wants out of this group of people and how he hasn't got a lot of time to get the message he needs to get across. He's not going to play the same tactics that Wayne Bennett did. He's not going to play people out of position like Wayne Bennett did. He's not going to play heritage players like... Well, he ain't got long. He's got 3 tests against Australia, maybe a warm-up against France.
John Bateman says, Connor.
I think John Bateman is the kind of player who is exactly... But he's not vociferous. Whereas Zach is. There was something on... It might have been Inside Super League, you know, when they go training with teams.
Oh, yeah, you watch him doing stuff, yeah.
Zach was clearly a guy who was talking to the group. He was the one that when they got round in the huddle was saying, right, we're going to do this whatever way. Or
But then also because of his role that he plays, whether it be, you know, full-back, such a, you know, if they're running plays and he needs to know which line to run, or if it's defensively, they need to listen to him more.
Yeah.
He needs to speak up naturally in his position.
Yeah.
You know, and he is versatile, so can go elsewhere.
Well, we
So
haven't got a huge
clarity.
amount of world-class centres to choose from. So I think if he is earmarked as a centre, you could imagine Ratchford at full-back, Hardacre at centre, Lomax at stand-off. Then I think if Hardacre is almost one of your first picks because we're short of world-class centres, and you give him the extra responsibility of captaincy, I'm not saying that would be my choice. But knowing him a little bit and hearing what Sean Wayne is trying to build, I think it could be the making or breaking of Zach. And if it's the making of him, it gives you a dimension that we haven't had.
I think that's too risky, the make or break. I think that's too risky. Whereas something like Ratchford, who is very comfortable in his role, very comfortable internationally, he doesn't seem, you know, there's no difference between how he plays in a sweepy versus how he plays internationally. You know, he's somebody, and I don't know how he is as a person and how he would mix with Sean, but he's somebody that is very settled in what he does and how he plays.
But is he likely to be selected in every 17?
No.
Whereas I think Hardacre at his best is a shoe-in. He's one of the first names that you write down because
his best, yeah.
He can offer you something that very few other players. If we can get back to the Zach Hardacre of 2017 pre-scandal, he can frighten the Aussies. He's one of our few world-class players that, perhaps in partnership with Luke Gale, which is what we had in that great Castleford team.
Yep.
What the Aussies don't defend as well against, although it's rare that they don't defend magnificently against anything, is brilliant footwork. You know, Keith Senior had his absolute height. Our centres frighten them because once we do get the ball wide to them, you know, the one-on-one step and the ability to read a gap is really hard to defend against, no matter who you are. And we haven't had enough players that can do that. And obviously Wayne Bennett clearly had some doubts that Mark Percival could do that because considering they didn't pick him. Now,
Well, there is that, yeah.
Zach, I think, on form, which he is at the start of this season, and he did play very well in a quieter role while he found his feet last year at Wigan. I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet. But that is...
It's all talking points, isn't it? It's all discussion.
I'm sure the good people...
They all accuse you of being on drugs.
That's
That's
fine.
concerning. Or glee. Is that still a thing? I don't know. Used to be on TV in the 80s. Get in touch on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everything this evening. Excitingly, because obviously I've started now my slow ascent to taking over Rugby League. It's starting very slow. It's a very small incline, but I've gone like this, and I've decided if I was in charge of the RFL, I'd have come up with a different name for the England Women Knights, because Knights are male. I want to call it the England Dames because that sounds crap.
It's the little thing.
But I could have, I would have run a competition on the Our League app and given away a Great Britain shirt, which you can buy now cheap online. M&M Direct, they're selling them $24.99. So if you want a GB shirt, that's where the place to go. All the stuff, the training gear, before it gets burnt in a bin somewhere, in a red hole. But the England Women's National Performance Squad has been named, and Matty says, what does Danica make of the Women's Performance Squad selected? YTG.
Yeah, the girls. It's great. There's a lot of, if we're looking at, it's funny that, because aren't they called the EPS, which is the England Performance Squad?
Yes, it is. The women are a squad. They're not having a meeting.
Right, and they haven't got any fixtures
actual
either.
squad. No.
No.
Because the
not
Gillaroos
really.
aren't coming over.
No. Well, I've heard there are two potential options, but I don't think I'm allowed to say who they are.
Wow.
One's on. Well, Callum's gone there
You
anyway.
man, I'm out of the loop. I don't know. Well, can start off by saying that the Knights is a great introduction to the women's, and I think that's just it's a nice kind of shoehorn, isn't it, for the girls to get in there early. So from what I understand, there's going to be slightly bigger Knights and a smaller England squad or performance squad, whatever. When it comes round to playing, they'll have a squad and then they will select from the Knights should they need to strengthen it. Which is a great way to do it, and there's some real names in there that I'm really happy for. Kira Bennett, who is she just turned 17 for us, that was playing at hooker, can also play half. She's working her little socks off and has got really fit, and we've seen a few. I think we've got 11 Leeds Rhinos players.
12 named in the squad.
Yeah,
I think I'm not sure the squad. I'm not sure the squad that's been sent out is the complete squad.
And a couple of people who played in a Origin game.
Do you know
Who
what?
weren't
So
in the squad.
Oh, no, Origin and game both
Yeah.
there. Oh no, just game really.
yeah, I mean we can come on to that in a minute, but no. So the squad announced versus who played at the weekend is great. There's a few people missing, which are going to leave a bit of confusion. There's a few people put in there, which great for them to give a go, and it's nice to get up onto that level, but also may have a few question marks over. It's nice to see that we've had Warrington and Huddersfield come into the Super League, and we've already had people selected from those without them playing a Super League game. Even though some of them have played Super League, essentially when they're at different clubs.
I'm biting my tongue at this point.
Go for it. Why?
No, because my understanding was there were players from my club in the squad, but they're not in the squad that's been announced. But I was told they were in there.
But there are people that played in the Origin. So at the weekend, Amy Staveley from Leeds Rhinos played in the Origin for Yorkshire. She wasn't put into the original squad or listed in the original squad. However, is one of the best second rows in the Super League. Do you know what she has? She runs, she tackles, she hits a line, she carries the ball. She set up. I would put on the line 50% of our tries last season were set up from Amy Staveley runs, because she just the way she hits a line and takes in the defence. Now, how she's not named in the EPS but has played for Yorkshire might be the way that she steps up and then gets into it. You're missing Faye Gaskin, who's the best half in the league, alongside Courtney, but obviously Courtney's Australian. She's not in there, and I know she's got a bit of an injury issue, but it doesn't mean she shouldn't be named in it.
Well, because Stevie Ward was in the England squad throughout last year, wasn't he? And Luke Gale was involved in those meetings and whatever.
Yeah, there's a few. I think the PNG tour left a lot to be, well, from what I've heard anyway. So there might be a few names missing out of choice rather than selection. But generally, I think it's the expansion of it is a really fantastic thing.
Provided they play fixtures.
Provided they play fixtures, yeah, and it's going to give a lot of girls. Do you know, for definitely the Knights tab and the younger ones, the idea of being in that performance squad must be such a huge confidence boost, and the way they're playing, and give them the motivation they need to keep working hard, work on the fitness, because the fitness that we do has all got to be self-motivated. And that's
so would you take the Knights to, say, Canada this autumn?
I'd definitely give them a good run
Play
out.
the Ravens and give them, because they're playing in the World Cup, but they don't have too many international fixtures coming up.
Yeah, I mean,
and give them the cultural experience, because they're by nature at the very start of their representative ladder. They tend to be younger. They've not pulled on the national shirt yet.
I'd even take them
give
to
them
France.
A development.
I'd take them to France, which is not too far away. You go for a week or whatever. You play maybe one test game.
Unless you're not allowed to play in front of more than 1,000 people.
Oh.
Yikes.
There is that. But that whole feeling of being in camp, of being in a high performance camp, is quite testing. Like psychologically, it's very testing. And I think that's really what they need to develop in the women's game. I know they're meeting regularly most weekends at the minute. The game on Saturday, which wasn't really advertised anywhere. If it wasn't a game, don't let people spectate. If it is a game,
don't produce a team sheet and put it on Twitter, and then people like me who are idiots will ask, well, why do you stream all this rubbish and then don't stream an actual?
Yeah.
And then it's not a game. Oh right, that's fine.
Yeah, and the thing is though, they've put the performance squad together and said, we're going to play Yorkshire Lancashire. We need to see you play. Now there's a few things as a rugby player. I'm sure it works both male and female. One, you're playing an origin game. If you're anything like me, you're very proud of your county and where you come from and win at all costs. Two, if it's a game and we're having spectators, you know you need to perform. Three, it's essentially like a selection. Again, you need to perform. And four, if we get it on a broader spectrum and it's on our league or whatever other stream you want to put it on, again, another reason to step up and play. Because no matter what anybody says, I think if the Catalan Leagues is played behind closed doors, I'm sure it'll be competitive, but it won't be as competitive if it's played on Sky Sports in front of a stadium. And then you get a true test of how people deal with atmosphere and pressure. FYI, there's the Origin round 2,
yes.
ding ding ding, at Batley on Wednesday.
Is that going to be another half hour each way, 2 kicks at goal after every
That
try?
2 kicks at goal was a bit odd.
See, in my opinion, right, this isn't a match. This shouldn't be reported on as a match because
it's not a game.
It's not an official match.
Yeah.
You don't get
if it's not played to the rules that are,
it's just a scrimmage or a training session. So don't treat it as if it is a thing. If it's not a thing, because then when you do have a real Origin game later in the season, it kind of detracts from that. I don't know.
And then there's another third game.
Sunday at Wheatwood.
Yes.
So it's a 3. So Lancashire, it's not a game, so it doesn't really matter that Lancashire won.
No. Well, it never
so
matters
therefore it's
when
irrelevant,
Lancashire
isn't
win,
it? If it's not a game, it's irrelevant that Lancashire won. So.
What about the overall age of the squad? Because I think last time you were on, we talked a bit about this. It's almost as if a baby has been thrown out with the bathwater. That there's age discrimination being practiced, and whilst we're all for giving the new upcoming generation their chance, and they will form probably 90% of the team that plays in the 2021 World Cup, I think you've written in your column for the next mag that you've got to have people like Faye.
Yeah.
Because who do the young kids learn off if the best aren't there, and age is irrelevant in that respect?
Yeah, so and Faye's still relatively young when it comes to England cap. She might have maybe 8 or 9 now, which is, it's only 8 or 9 games, isn't it? Yeah, I think understandably from 2018 they were going for a younger squad, trying to develop them for the 2021 World Cup. Great idea. And that meant whether through lack of performance or whether it be age or whether you face fitted or not, a lot of the 30, 32 plus players were no longer in the squad, and that could be from a varying, degree of different reasons. But and then there was, this talk about this younger squad coming up and lots of younger girls, which I totally agree. But who'd you learn from? So you've got Jodie Cunningham, who is now a stalwart of the England team, one of the best fullbacks in the league, being moved to half. Emily Rudge, captain, back rower, great. Again, she was in a World Cup at 16 years old, has experience. Amy Hardcastle at centre, again, she's got experience. And they're the ones now that people got to kind of learn from. And aside from Emily in the forwards, the forward pack is very experience-like. Is that the way to put it? I don't know.
I like
there was no other. When we went to the World Cup,
apart from somebody who isn't a million miles away.
I mean, I think that might be more of an ability how you're playing so far, but there's
She
no.
modestly said, having done the double this year.
Well, it's mine after the third time, isn't it? The modesty bit loses. No, but so when we went to the World Cup and you had Emma Slow, Bess Sutcliffe, Kirsty Maroney at half, at hooker, Andy Dobson at back row. That was experience. You felt comfortable, and I'm not too dissimilar in age. I'm probably a bit older than, I think I'm older than Andy. That was an experienced group of girls that had been on many tours, played in many World Cups, and yet maybe age has stopped them playing, and they probably, opted to retire. But you learn from that. On the pitch, things aren't going right. When they say something, that you do it and you go by it. I think Shani was in the World Cup, but wasn't like a start or anything like that. I'm trying to think of who else is in the, the props now are, Danny Anderson, fantastic addition. She was in last.
Phil's favourite player.
Well, that's it. You can't deny her
Present
skill.
company.
I was going to say, yeah, apart from yours.
I mean, I know you
Otherwise,
prefer
I ain't
Danielle
getting out
over
of
me.
here.
I know you prefer Danielle over me. I do too. It's fine. But she's great. She's a fantastic player. She's one of the best props, if not the best prop in the league. Really fit, work rate, but just doesn't have that experience of playing the Aussies and playing the Kiwis. Brings you a different, ball game. It's totally different. It's fast. It's harder. It's
relentless. You don't get a second.
You're in this washing machine of what's just happened. It doesn't matter what happened because the next play's happening, and their professionalism and they would come across as arrogant, but they're not. They're just so comfortable in what they do, and that's psychological warfare from walking out the tunnel, isn't it? So yeah, that younger squad, and I hope nothing more than anybody in the world that squad are ready for the 2021 World Cup. But without a test match, we can't play France anymore. They don't test us. Flying over to Papua New Guinea was fantastic, and Papua New Guinea, that second game, and as I said in the column and said when I came back on here after that, I think that was down to selection based on the head coach. And then, proving that when times get tough, do they have the experience to be able to step up on the international scale? I really hope so, but what are we doing in order to get them ready for that before 2021? Or are we going to walk out and the first game be against, Brazil? And let's think that Brazil might be like Canada, and it might be not an easy win because that's not nice, but an unrealistic.
Yeah, it might give them a false sense of security.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm all for developing the girls, and in 3 or 4 years' time, rugby league is going to be somewhere different in the women's game, and I'll be long gone.
Still a place for you here.
Oh, thanks.
It's gone because we don't pay. We'll talk a bit about the Women's Super League in a bit. Craig says you talk sense, which is good. Michael's told me your name.
That will never catch on.
No. There's some very funny things now. What time are you discussing the men's game, Massey? We're going to talk about Super League now. And we'll start to annoy everyone by talking about the Leeds Rhinos. Oh, not Leeds Rhinos. They beat Toronto 66-12 in front of 12,143 people at Headingley, including Sandy, who was on the telly. I watched a bit of this. I was going to go, but I was late finishing work, so I couldn't get there, which is a shame because I always enjoy going to Headingley and enjoying the food in the cafe. I probably wouldn't have enjoyed the game though because it was a bit flat, it's fair to say, because Leeds started early and we'll finish them off. And in fairness, I don't know. I think Leeds should be deducted points for pretty much taking the mickey during the game. High fives before tries.
Don't think that went down particularly well with the coaching staff.
He apologised straight after as well.
That was
Not
funny. Because on the same day, it was the anniversary of Leeds versus Southampton, a famous game at Ellen Road where Leeds just absolutely took the mickey.
It's almost cruel.
It is. Every man jack of this Leeds side is turning them on, and I think that was a kind of tribute from the Rhinos to that performance. But you can only beat what's in front of you. And what's in front of you at the moment for Toronto is not a lot because they're all injured or not able to be put under the salary cap. 66-12. Gale and Louis looked superb. I think the whole team, in fairness.
There wasn't really a weak link, but I think the most encouraging thing was the half-back combination, which is 5 games old, looked like it was becoming a proper partnership where equal responsibility across the two. And Luke Gale was fantastic. He has been all year so far, but his game management was superb. And again, you're right. You can't read too much into such a convincing win because once the gaps were there, the speed of people like Harry Newman to exploit them, and Conrad Hurrell's power, they were unstoppable. But stiffer test weight. They've now got probably not Catalan away as it's going to turn out. Or it should be Catalan away on Saturday.
That's a shame because it'd be good if Tompkins is out, wouldn't it?
Hopefully.
We'll get to predictions. We'll just all predict a draw, 0-0. We'll go with that.
Then they've got St Helens at home and Castleford away.
Mm-hmm.
So the next 3 weeks will tell you, or maybe 2 weeks will tell you more about how the Rhinos are going. But I think what's back at Headingley is the fun element. And the fans now are appreciating the style that they're playing in. The ball is being moved a lot. Wingers are getting a lot of opportunities, which is the tradition.
But you don't think that
forwards
was the good
are very
part?
mobile.
Yeah, we had this complaint about the forwards not being big enough, but they're doing a job. But also, what I think is good is the win was very convincing. When you see teams when you get past a certain point, take the mickey and just take balls in themselves, a bit of white line fever. But the structure continued to stay there. I'm a big Myler fan, so it was not. He played fantastically well, but he's just in the right place at the right time. He's taking the ball to the line off a great ball from Luke. And they're stuck even at 45, 50 points in. They're still playing with structure and still going by the game plan. They're not flying off. And things did appear and opportunities arose because they were splitting the defence, and that's maybe when you run the ball in and go slightly off game plan, but that comes from that structure they stuck to, which is really working.
And I also think a couple of the other young kids that have really stepped up at the start of this year are Michalewski, who started and was probably the most dominant forward on the field, and Cameron Smith, who came off the bench, and again his stats are ridiculous. They look like he's played the full 80 minutes. So the balance looks good. I don't know if it is a worry. Toronto have reached a point where they've now played all teams that are currently in the top 6. They're all away from home. They've got a gap now to play in a Challenge Cup, which will not be any easier because it's at Huddersfield, but it's a game that they don't have to win.
Yeah.
They're looking at recruitment options. They clearly don't have enough players, and some of the ones they do have out there are obviously injured.
Yeah.
But even though they got heavily beaten, up to about the 20th minute, you could see what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
They were trying to trouble by keeping the ball moving all the time. If you can't back up with great defence, then it can be a long night, as it turned out. But they are going to trouble some teams in the not too distant future if they can get 17 guys out there that are fit and raring to go.
Well, it was like the first 3 minutes of the second half. They were throwing the ball around very convincingly, and although I think you have to look at Leeds' defence rather than Toronto's attack at some, at the tries. And if I'm being really picky, just in terms of development for Leeds, but there was a couple of minor, unforced errors, but nothing of any that makes you think that they're rubbish.
They've got world-class players who aren't playing to their level of ability because either if it's a John Wilkin, he's clearly playing on one leg. If it's a Sonny Bill Williams, he isn't rugby league fit.
Yeah.
If it's Tony Gigo is trying very hard in
He's
4
trying to
weeks
find
to
his-
get a contract. And
Yeah, to find his feet.
so
isn't it?
I just think they've got some individual ingredients there, but they haven't got a team at the moment. But I think Brian McDermott's always interesting to listen to post-match. And he was brilliant. He gave a lot of insight into Brian's early
I was
time.
going to say, it's a good job it's not International Women's Day today if we're getting the female to get the cuppers. It's not good.
It's just whoever's nearest the
Some biscuit controversy going on.
Listen, I don't mind
Ray.
picking up the coffees and the teas and the biscuits. I've got no worries. Woman or no woman.
He was great because he explained that it's times like these that shape your team, and that you learn a hell of a lot more about the values that you're trying to put into what is a very new enterprise. And that somebody like John Wilkin is the kind of hero story that they actually need at the moment. The fact that he should be under the knife, but he's insisting that he's trying to help his mates out. That is the system that Brian McDermott can build something around, and that's not about the result. It's about who we are as a team. And he spoke really well about that, and too many people do get hung up about scores sometimes, and he didn't come in and say that it was the end of the world. He came in and he's still seen things that as a coach mean more than our defence was woeful tonight, because you can fix that. So,
Yeah, I think there's an element as well that you're playing with players that are championship players and still haven't stepped up to the next level. Like Liam Kay in championship looked like world class, didn't he? He was a fantastic player. Is he Super League ready or Super League capable?
Well, he used to play in Super League.
No, but
For a great team.
yeah, but the fact that he didn't then perhaps maintain his
And he
Super
didn't go
League
the length of
career.
the field, did he? when he
well,
got
no,
the
but
ball?
you look at the wingers or the ages you've got in the Super League, and you're comparing to the likes of Tom Johnson and Tommy Makinson and
Tom Lyon.
Tom Lannon.
Anyone else not called Tom?
Well, I just thought we'd keep the Tom thing going. That was all
Yeah,
right.
we'll go for.
Tom Briscoe.
Well, I was going to go for Luke instead, but and Ash is finishing off. You look at that calibre of player. Whereabouts does he rank? And that's sometimes you need a good edge, don't you? To if you've got people in the middle, you've got Gigo who can run a line out the back. You've got people who can move that ball around. You just need that finisher at the end. And who is the finisher on a Toronto team?
And it's not necessarily the quality of the player, it's how much those players are being paid, which might be the big issue for Toronto at the moment, because they can't fit anyone else in.
I think not all of Sonny Bill's huge salary counts on the cap, but I think a conscious decision was also made that money was going to be used for something wider than his performances on the field, and again I think they're being penalised for that. And that's a shame, because what he has bought is the kind of publicity that the sport never gets. And the other clubs should be prepared to allow them some of the funding that they get that Toronto aren't taking, because of what they bring to the table that everybody benefits from.
That's enough on Leeds because they're good now. The show's not good when Leeds are good.
People not liking Phil and I talking about Leeds.
No. And some Toronto are good in about 3 weeks' time, and not 2 weeks' time when they play Wakefield, but we'll see.
There are games coming up for Toronto against teams that they are not a million miles away from in the league table that will mean far more. And if getting a shellacking at Leeds helps them to win those games, they won't care.
Elsewhere at the top end of the table, well, there's 3 games on Friday which all had less than 2 points between them. Not between them, but in the results. We'll start with the champion St
You're not
Helens.
saying uncertainty about.
Every minute matters. St Helens 10, Huddersfield 12. Great comeback from Huddersfield, having been battered by Wigan the week before. Obviously helped them having Caesar on for the full match this time out. Had someone send me a message on Twitter saying some Saints fans, not all Saints fans, getting on the back of Christian Wolf already. High expectations based on the fact that they absolutely dominated things last year, much like the seasons where Wigan, Warrington and Leeds were down at the bottom end. It was almost a freak year last year. Saints were that much better than everyone else, but this year they're not, because everyone else has caught them up for whatever reason.
Do you not think there's always a dip after something like the World Cup Challenge? What is the purpose of putting the World Cup Challenge in the start of the season? And if you go by things that have happened in previous years and significant games, there seems to be a bit of a lull for the team afterwards.
Did you have it after the Challenge Cup final?
An afternoon one?
No, like a lull.
Oh.
Not on that.
We did in the first year, yeah. Because the first year we won the Challenge Cup final and we were at home to Wigan and lost. That's a team we'd beaten 2 or 3 times, twice in the league. So yeah, the week after the Challenge Cup final, the first year.
I think we're missing something here, and that is the performance of the season from Huddersfield.
Yeah.
I think that tells you a hell of a lot about the Giants. Their ability to take a heavy beating from a team that played them off the park, and to within 7 days, well, less than 7 days, because it was 5 days, turn that around and say, look, we're playing another great team, arguably an even harder test because it's at their place, irrespective of what they're coming off.
Yeah.
To allow Saints not to score a point in the second half at home on a ground where they haven't been beaten for over a year is a massive indication of where Huddersfield are at the moment and how they've improved. The slight rider is Saints weren't challenged enough by Toronto coming straight out with the World Club Challenge, but we found after Easter it perhaps wasn't the game after, it's the game after that gets you mentally and physically. But what we haven't done is paid enough credit to the job that Simon Wolford's done over the close season, and Huddersfield clearly deserve to be up amongst the front runners at the moment, and that result hasn't got the credit it deserved.
No, yeah, and that's right, because people are focusing too much on, the current champions. Yeah,
Huddersfield are not a fashionable team in the sense of the fact that everybody has a go at their crowd figures and all that kind of stuff. But that is a sensational result that deserved lauding, and because the other 2 games were determined by a point, and because the Huddersfield game wasn't on the telly, and because Huddersfield haven't yet been on the telly, nobody's given them enough credit. They're still a relatively young team. They push the bow out to get a marquee halfback who's playing fantastically well at the moment, and I just think that they could be this year's Salford, which is not to say they'll get to the grand final, but they are a team that have started the season really well, and I don't think they'll drop that standard. They'll lose games, but they won't drop that standard.
The thing with Huddersfield for me, and this might cause a bit of controversy, I would say that Huddersfield are the team of players that are, apart from obviously an out-and-out class halfback now, have been a team of relatively, there's no shining superstars as such. They've all been quite, around a similar relative to their position or whatever, and there's never been any, your Tommy Makinsons or however you want to call it. And now they've got that same structure, but they've got a real leader on the field that can really dominate the gameplay and what's going to happen and read the game so well. Like, he's just unbelievably class, isn't he? Like,
He's just come out with an NRL grand final.
Yeah, but you can see it on the pit, you see the clips of him and he just looks up and he's put his hand out, he knows exactly where he's going and what's coming off. I've always been in awe of the halfback that can do that, because I'm a prop, my job is to close my eyes, catch and run really hard. And I don't mind saying that, but there's something beautiful about a halfback that can just read the game so well, and therefore that communication on the field, there's nothing like it. So if Huddersfield maintain this, I don't want to use, it's not average because that's not a fair word to say, but there's an equality in the team in terms of ability, and then this one,
which is exactly what Salford were.
Yeah.
They had that, and Jackson,
yeah.
And I can see some similarities even at this very early stage of the season between Huddersfield this year and Salford last year. If Jackson Hastings stayed fit virtually all last season, I don't think he was. He might have been rested for a game, but I don't think he was injured.
Yeah.
If Aidan Caesar can stay on the park, Huddersfield can make the playoffs.
I'd like that. They're my second Super League team.
Used to be Catalan Dragons, but we don't talk about it.
No, but I said actually Catalan and Huddersfield have always been similar places. Just because I wanted Catalan to win the Challenge Cup.
Why Huddersfield?
Closest one to me, I was a Bradford girl, wasn't I?
Oh, they don't exist anymore.
And it's good for the sport if we get results like
Yeah.
like that. So
Well, no, because the main headlines they are made by someone forgetting their passport because people are idiots.
Oh.
Not the people who forget them, the people who publicise the people forget them. They're the idiots.
That's alright then.
Warrington beat Castleford. The Wolves are back. Remember they were rubbish last. Steve Price out last week. Steve Price in this week. Blake Austin, formerly of Great Britain, with the drop goal.
on the win.
Yeah, on 79 minutes. They won. Cass got a penalty try. That was exciting. Always exciting to see a penalty try. After all that hype about Cass, Warrington got the win. And
It was an exciting game because it was edge of the seat stuff
Yeah.
that close games are. I think there was a lot of nerves. I think you could tell from the crowd occasionally had patches where it was quiet, and I think the commentators were saying that when they'd come into the ground they'd noticed that it was nervy. And I think Warrington played quite conservatively, and they kept stressing in the pre-match, you know, Steve Price was saying, what have you done this week to turn it around? Well, we just kept really to the basics. I don't know, there was nothing between the teams. There wasn't a huge amount of quality on display during the 80 minutes. The only worry for Cass would be they had enough drop goal attempts from two very good young halfbacks to win 2 games and couldn't knock any of them over.
Yeah, there is that. And also, I'd say that penalty try, which, yeah, whatever, it was a penalty try. Can we just talk about how good defensively it was to stop that try? And to get under it? And yeah, you might have gone a little bit touch high, whatever, but the determination to get in there and to get that, to stop that, needs to also be, because it was not, there's nothing malicious about the tackle, is there? It was just, unfortunately, but
I
you
think
know,
we
that,
are going to talk about some tackles
we
in
are.
a minute.
We are. Yeah.
oh well.
No, I just thought, again, it was the best thing about the game was Darryl Powell's comment afterwards when he said you never like to lose, particularly Darryl. He's an out and out winner, but he felt that he was pleased for his mate Steve Price.
Yeah.
Because it took the pressure off him a little bit. And we said it last week, and I reiterate it. Just the rush to judgment these days in all walks of life is just ridiculous.
No.
And you know, you win one week and you're the king, and you lose the following week, you've got to be sacked. It's nonsense.
Well, that's rugby league for you, isn't it?
I do
Or is
think
that
that Steve Price still doesn't quite know what his best team and combinations are.
Well, I think there's a pressure on as well. You know, they've invested in a few big names over the last 12 months, and you know, are those big names performing properly yet? And the pressure.
But are they being played in the right position? Because at the start of the season, when they were good,
Is Wayne Bennett looking after Warrington?
well, they moved Stephen Ratchford to half, and it sort of worked.
Yeah.
And then Gareth Widdop comes in, who can quite easily play fullback because he's played most of his career there. I'd have kept Ratchford at half, and it's a hard game to try and change your combinations in play.
Yeah.
You do it during all the pre-season if you want, but I'm still not sure they're running like a well-oiled machine.
That's it.
And as we may know more about Warrington this week, because as Carl's pointing out, they haven't won away since July last year in the Super League. They are away at Hull next week, who beat Wakefield 27-26.
One final question on the Warrington game. Tom Lynham is a showman.
Yeah.
He looked less than a showman if he had dropped that ball over the line with his rather exaggerated dive. Isn't the rule just get it down? Just score.
There was
Tom Johnson.
There was no. Tom
There was
Johnson works in no space. What he does is just incredible.
But Tom Lynham is a big guy as well.
But he has plenty of. Nobody's going to knock him off the ball, is he? If he'd have gone low and in, he would have
just
scored.
about to say exactly the same. Yeah.
And you just thought
that was a significant jump, wasn't it?
And the referee's going to the screen to check the ground, and because there's always a possibility you might have lost control of it with your accurate. And he's a funny guy, and he's a character, and we need to look. If I was Steve Price and people were talking about my job being on the line, and my winger had done an extravagant dive and had dropped the ball, I would have taken him out of the back.
Well, there is that, isn't there? And is that is that showboating? Was it an off the cuff? You know, how many times has Tom Lanham actually done that before? You know,
I can remember
it's a Makin
game,
St Johnson special, isn't it? Let's be fair. They're the two players you can normally trust.
Yeah.
Johnson is a 100% you trust him.
And it's always around the post.
Yeah.
He
was inside.
at least 5 metres to be working with. The instinct should have been go low.
I mean, he's probably about 3 metres wide, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which means he could go low and slide over for a good 7 metres, couldn't he? But yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way to word it without.
It was a risk in a game that finished with 1 point between the two.
It was a bit of a divvy move, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a better way of
I struggled there to think, but that's my.
It was nearly 2 weeks in a row where Hull threw away big leads. 20 points to 6 up at half time. 26 all. Golden point. And then, oh no.
So,
Hull win the toss. Mark Sneed drop goal. That's it. And no points for Wakefield despite a great comeback. As Chris Chester said in the press conference afterwards, second half better than the first half. Tom Johnson magic tries, 2 for Ryan Atkins on his 100th game for Wakefield, with about 10 years apart between the a few of those. Jay Pitts also scoring. Mahe Fanua back on the score sheet for Hull. But they nearly threw it away, but they didn't, and they won, and now they are back. Hull are back, Warrington are back. They meet this week, but
I think back's a very loose term.
well, no, but it's like Zach's back. The Bulls are back last year after winning one game.
Would you say
They lost
Warrington are
in
back if Hull had been on form?
Well, I'm being facetious, aren't I? You see,
Yeah,
that's
I know.
my role in this program.
Yes, and also my role is to.
Rein me in.
No, well, I'm not going to rein you in. I just been like playing devil's advocate a little bit. Would you
Well,
still say?
would you still
say it was a? Yeah. Would you say?
I think the big worry for Lee Radford is that his team are not ruthless at the moment.
Yeah.
To build a big lead 2 weeks running and to lose it in the first game and have to win it in golden point extra time in the second, that would still be a worry for me. The deal, the joy of getting the 2 points and a bit of a monkey that was building on the back, fine. But if you're in a position to be, winning the game and you're having to claim it in golden point extra time, however well Wakefield have played to come back into it, there is a lack of steel at the moment about Hull.
Yeah,
That would be a worry.
But that's what I'm saying. So I think the whole, with the game coming up, there's nerves because when both teams are on form, they're both fantastic. Both currently not on form, so maybe going in with a little bit of nerves, despite whether of scraping a win or not. There's going to be nerves because you're not playing at your best. You're not playing at the top. And with the 6 games in, surely you should be edging up there now. There should be
improvement.
Yeah. Much like we can say that at the minute, touch wood with Leeds. Don't like to tempt fate, but
the teams at the top are
being consistent on and developing and,
Yeah.
and so I wonder what it's going to be like, because it could be a very edgy, nervous game, couldn't it? And is it a case of whoever steps into the top gear first will take the spoils?
I think the other interesting thing is the Tom Johnson aspect, because he has scored 2 ridiculous tries again. I mean, the kind of tries that very few people worldwide can score, and that if that had happened in the NRL, or if that had happened in another sport, perhaps that carries an oval ball, it would have gone truly viral.
Yeah.
The reason it hasn't is because we haven't made enough of that as a sport. It's not Wakefield as a club. It's not Super League as a Twitter handle. But you have got to keep relentlessly showing that kind of stuff, because it's astonishing. It deserves more than one viewing. It deserves 5 different angles to view it from.
As a sport, we think it's more. We think someone forgetting their passport's a story and not promoting the real.
Friday night after Johnson had done what he did, and in a way what Lynham did as well, because it worked.
Yeah.
Those images should have been clipped together, and somebody should have been putting out a 30-second highlights video for us all to retweet, so that suddenly it goes viral. and we missed that opportunity. We do it too often. Now, the big hit that Mark talked about the other week, when was it Fanua hit Fuad Yaha, and he said you could hear it up at the top of the stands. You know, it looked astonishing.
Yeah.
Why isn't, you know, that's what this sport's about. It was legal.
I said this.
It was admirable. It was everything we pride and go. And if we could get that, I mean, it might be a good time to quickly talk about the Tina Turner remake video.
Yeah.
Which has created a load of interest in Australia. Some of it good, some of it people saying, why do we have to go down a road of ticket? It's a brilliant video, and the action that it shows, and the Fox Sports one where they've got Jimmy Barnes in the new stadium being built, and the images are coming up in the dust of the old. That we don't do that enough.
Well, that builds excitement, isn't it? You get excited, and
you don't need to know who everybody is.
No. That's it. As a game, it makes you excited, doesn't it? And like, I mean, I like NRL. I'll watch it anyway. But now I'm more excited about the start of the NRL, and purely because of them, because of those videos. But who, apart from, what kind of? I mean, you know, we had that the Super League documentary that in parts was very exciting, in parts maybe could have, you know, the whole, you know, Barcelona section I think could have been made much more of an exciting. But, you know, you're going to use a big hit, you're going to use a lot of Tom Johnson, maybe last season a bit of Tommy Akinson. It just doesn't seem to have the same flair that the NRL does. Or is it that just because of the social media and things you do or don't do?
I think it's because we don't realise how important that is. Because the one thing that rugby league fans will do is if we see something that extols the sport, no matter if it's not the team that we necessarily support, we'll retweet it, we'll comment about it, we'll move it around social media. Now, there aren't a lot of us compared to some other sports, but when everybody's doing it, like you saw with Kevin Sinfield on Sports Personality of the Year, I can remember watching something on Twitter the other week that was bowls. We talked about this the other day. That somebody who was on the BBC Something Bowls Championship, which normally, you know, with the greatest respect, you look round the audience and they're of a certain age, but this guy did something unbelievable.
They'll be banning the crowds at the bowls soon. They'll be banning the crowds.
You know, he had one shot and he had to weave it through 3 bowls, and he had to hit the jack, and he had to take the other, and he did it, and it became a viral sensation. And people who have no idea who the bloke is or what bowls is as a sport, it was on their timeline and they were tweeting, going, have you seen this? Why don't we do that?
Whichever day it was at the darts this week when Michael Mangowan hit a 9-darter, it was on Twitter within minutes because they know what they're doing.
And that doesn't cost anything.
No.
That is
but
part of your media.
Is it the governing body? Who is it the organisation? Is the sponsor?
I'm trying
Who's
to think
putting it out?
because I'm not sure when clubs are allowed to tweet stuff out from games, because there is if it's not on Sky, there's some rule about when you can and can't do stuff. But the governing body themselves, or the Super League themselves, can do whatever they want because they're in control of things. So why they don't, I don't know.
And they may retweet it, but what we don't do is put together a little package, so you know, a minute after the games are finished, saying, "Oh, by the way, this happened tonight in Super League."
Tim says it wasn't on the TV, so there's no commentary on the video. It doesn't matter because you can hear the crowd.
And you can put a music soundtrack behind it.
Put a bit of Simple the Best.
Yeah.
I tweeted, was it last week, the week before? I'm concerned. There's so much rugby league content out there. It's great, hooray! So many podcasts, wonderful. We'll have some more. And TV programmes. I can watch some Super League show, Rugby, Inside Super League, Bat Chats. That's 4 at least on television. Plus everything else. The same guests are going around over and over and over again. You can see George Burgess on 2 shows this week. Now, we saw him on Inside Super League in week 1. He's not got much to say.
And he's only just back from India.
That's not criticism of him.
No, but on the edge of that, you know, these shows have to get a variety of clubs in to be seen not to be, you know, favouritising one. And then within, let's say within Wigan, God bless their souls, who would you want to sit and speak to from Wigan? Lockers is great, but he's actually not that comfortable on screen in front of a camera.
Liam Farrell probably not either.
Yeah. You know, George he's used to it in the NRL. Again, still not fluid and great. But who else would you have on? Who else?
True, Sam Powell's strength isn't necessarily his media presence.
Whereas,
Hastings.
Yeah, but again, you're going back to a
It is a
small...
but then Jackson Hastings always brings up. He's still got the Man of Steel thing, so you've got other things, which then goes back to Salford. So there's been a big thing about Leeds because obviously we're more capable, but they have to be careful how many Leeds, because you've got Daly can talk, you know, Stevie Ward can talk, Cosbo to a point is pretty decent.
Harry's good. He's
Yeah,
going to be good.
Harry's good. Connie's good, we just can't understand him half the time.
Doesn't matter,
He's just a
laughing.
character.
He's just laughing. Reece Martin's very good.
Yeah, you know, so you've got a list. You know, you've got a list of people there that don't be upset that I've just used Leeds as the example. But what I'm saying is that so therefore you are seeing the people from different clubs, but they're similar people like Blake Austin.
But we do
So
have
you
to
have to-
create.
yeah.
Liam Marshall could be perfect, but does he ever get the chance to?
Maybe you don't know, but has he had one interview or two, or has it? You know, the media manager at each club gone, do you want? And they've gone, oh no, absolutely no, I don't want to, because they're nervous about it.
But they need.
If I were Super League, I'd be saying, look, just be clever about what you do, because George Bates is on 2 shows this week. What's the point? He's been on TV 3 times. We're 6 weeks into the season.
Again, Wigan though, like we're going to pick from Wigan.
But it doesn't matter. There's 12 teams in
No, because
Super League.
if
All
you've
right,
got-
so
no, so the
so
Super League
Cannonballs
show-
will knock off. We'll
The
see how
Super
that-
League show is slightly a different anomaly because you have to have.
Well, I don't want to have a current player on there anyway because they can't say anything. Current players can't say anything. You're different.
No, but they can give their opinion based on
Yeah, but
players they know in the league.
But they're not going to say that team's rubbish if we play them next week. You might.
They can't in
But
the
they
same
won't.
way that
Maybe I would, yeah.
in the same way that Earl Crabtree can go on and yes he works for Huddersfield but he's not a player directly on the field.
But it's like when Jonesy goes on or JP goes on, they're not players directly anymore but still associated with Leeds. I think that's quite a tough call, but I do know what you're saying.
I
but
think we need to be clever about our presence because at a time when we're looking to negotiate a new TV deal or excite other media partners, because I think again we're moving away from probably a single deal with a single broadcaster. Those days seem to be going. That we need to sell the idea of the instantaneous, and the instantaneous at the moment is what going back to how this started. What Tom Johnson did. It actually didn't matter that Wakefield lost that game. Ultimately, what they did was a greater value to the sport as a whole. It mattered to Wakefield fans and it clearly mattered to Chris Chester and the players. But what Tom Johnson did transcended the club that he played for.
I always go back to that Rangy Chase clip, which someone at the RFL must be a Doncaster fan or something, because they always go back to it. But I've no idea whether Salford won that game or not when he did the mad thing. Because it's irrelevant, because people just want to see the bit of skill.
Yeah. I do think that we have got something really special in him as a finisher. I think we've got other...
What's Tom Johnson like being interviewed?
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
And he's cosmopolitan because he's born in Germany and travelled around with his dad's military career and he talks really well. He's good.
Come people out there. Get in touch with Richard.
You see,
he'll
this is the point that you make about who are the guests on all our media programmes this week. Why is Tom Johnson not on any of those programmes? So that we can keep showing that clip over and over again.
Do they get set up a few days beforehand, therefore it's out of loop?
But changes.
And then by the next week?
Well, some people get called up at very short notice, apparently, for their media.
Ah, well, yeah.
We had him on TalkSport 2 that time. We got in trouble for that because we pass it by the club.
But he's good, isn't he? He's good. And he's in the England squad, so on two accounts this week, he's the man to have in your studio.
Yeah.
He's perfect because he's just a normal person, which...
And I know a lot of the
the
stuff is filmed in this part of the world, so sometimes that determines who's available and who isn't. He's only down the back. Get him run up.
Get him on the town. So that was Wakefield versus Hull. On Saturday...
You were there?
Yeah, it was...
Good game?
Yeah. From what I was wandering around doing stuff, so yeah.
You were filming lawn mowers?
Yeah, I was. Topsy-turvy.
Nothing for Chris Chester to worry about other than the fact that his team just couldn't quite see it out.
Those games, yeah. When you're 14 points down at half time, it's a lot of points to get back, isn't it?
Danny Brough back this week.
Danny Brough, potentially, for the Big Challenge Cup game. First game ever against Bradford. Looking forward to that. Catalan Dragons beat Salford. It wasn't on the telly, no one's seen it. And
Saw the tries.
Phil said in the predictions last week, Catalans by 16, and lo and behold, they won by 16 points. Phil
Well,
Wells.
I feel like that's not fair because I'm not here every week to give my opinion. So I'd probably be
Are you
quite,
down as other?
I'd be
Yeah.
quite high up on the stakes here. I might just start giving you my predictions
Yeah, you
every
can
week.
tweet them in, or
I know,
whatever.
but I'm 6 games
You
down.
never
That's
know.
not fair.
You might be on every week at this rate, people. Will be.
Well, only when I'm third best. So I know my place in life. You know all that equality and International Women's Day.
Should
Well, at least
I was
we're
gonna
not a
ask you
token
that.
woman.
Should it
you know?
be a fist or a flat palm, and should that palm at the bottom be down or up? Because if you're going to have
The equality.
a symbol, everybody's got to do the same symbol. So everybody's got this bit, but I've seen it that way.
You have analysed these pictures, haven't you?
No, only but that's.
Is it right hand on top, left hand on
well,
top?
but don't you have to put out?
If you're going to do the side,
Seriously.
right hand on top, left hand underneath, both flat palms facing down. There you go. How's
Right.
that? And because it's a really nice, there's a nice parallel line there.
But if we know, we've all got to do it that way.
FYI, people.
So
Okay.
yes.
I don't know. But
I'm sorry, that was just anally retentive.
it's
But,
fine. Just talking about quality and.
Sandy's asked if I'm off to the Bradford game. I have to. It's my job. I don't have a choice. Craig's asked you out for dinner. So that's
Not me,
exciting.
presumably.
No, not me either. So. I didn't know this programme had turned into some kind of blind date or something.
You have chocolate biscuits if you like. Only 2 left.
Not
allowed.
for long.
Not allowed.
No. Oh yeah, you've given up chocolate.
Yeah, I have.
One's got your name on and one's mine.
Not for long though.
I'm on a very strict pre-season.
I'm going to say, well, we'll talk about pre-season in a minute because
Yes, because you've got to change your coach.
I need to get some inside info, don't I, ahead of the new season. Is there anything else to say about Catalans as well? Other than Catalans, that might be their last game for a while.
Sam Tompkins was good but bad.
Yes.
Standard.
Banned for 2 games.
Is it 2? I thought it was 1.
No, 2.
Ooh.
Not slamming Sam.
Important result for the Dragons, backing up a really good win at Hull. I think, Steve McNamara again saying he didn't think that they defended particularly well, but they've won. And that was again, they lost 40-0 last year. So I think he can see slight improvement, and I think, again, combinations are starting to work. Maloney clearly and Drinkwater are coming together. The man whose name we dare not mention is a threat out wide.
It's annoying that it's good, isn't it?
It is annoying. It'd be so much better if he
Well, if
was.
it was rubbish, you wouldn't be playing for anyone, would you?
It
That's
was-
how it works.
If they paid a lot of money and he kept dropping the ball, that'd be great. But and I think Ian Watson was a little bit happier with his team this week. His post-match was all about he could see some signs.
Well, he's got to be positive now, hasn't he? Can't say
Well,
anything too
I was-
controversial.
Well,
I was
we-
going to mention that.
Should we talk about that now as we segue into
Well-
it? Because we've got 2 big issues to talk about in terms of
Yes.
stuff coming off the
And
weekend.
with plenty of time.
So it may as well, it's all right everyone getting upset this weekend about referee abuse. I don't know why it's only this weekend everyone's decided to make a big issue of it. When we've been talking about it for, the 6 years we've been on the air. Why now? I don't know why. But the sport doesn't help itself when Brian McDermott's fined, what was it, 500 quid,
Well,
possibly 5,000
£5
for not turning up for a press
reduced,
conference.
yeah.
And we don't know what Ian Watson was fined because it was just described as a nominal amount. Well, I'm sorry, and I would say this about any coach, so before anyone accuses me of bias, you've got to hit them hard in the pocket and ban them from games. Because
Well,
otherwise, it's just a free-for-all. We saw last year with Emma
Absolutely.
McManus at St Helens, slap on the wrist. What's
You
the
should
point?
never ever use the word nominal, because all that sends out is, well, you're asking all the fans to be great, but apparently coaches can do what they like. So if you have a code of conduct and you have a respect code and it has been breached in public, then the perpetrator of that, who knowingly did it, should be punished for it. Now, I think it wouldn't have been unreasonable to expect Ian Watson to be banned from the touchline for, say, 2 or 3 games. That happens in football, and it wouldn't have been a major deal for Ian Watson because he'd still be in radio contact with all this stuff. But what does it say about how seriously we treat referee abuse. If you say it's a slap on the wrist, and that might be because Ian Watson's complaint about Steve Ganson not getting in touch with him shows the RFL in a poor light, that's a separate issue. Ian Watson has gone in a press conference and lambasted a referee, said he isn't capable of doing the job, and to be given a nominal fine for that sends out completely the wrong message.
Okay, so let me throw in here, I'm neither disagreeing nor agreeing with you, but as a coach who has been successful, last season he was great, he knows what his team can produce,
Yep.
he knows whether his team played bad, in previous press conferences is very honest about his team performance, and when they have been a shambles he's readily admitted so. If a coach genuinely has a feeling towards a referee that they may have jeopardised their performance or they may have caused a loss, whether right or wrong, if that's a coach's genuine opinion, and I'm not about the abuse for referees, I don't agree on that at all, they're doing a job and that's not fair, the wording needs to be much more careful, but if that's a genuine thought of how did the game go, well we struggled because of decisions that he didn't agree with, where's that fine line? Where's the...
The truth is, I was fortunate enough to be at that game, so I think you can only even have a judgment on it if you're physically there.
But also, you're not Ian, so you don't know how
but
you...
Salford's defence in the second half was the reason why they lost.
Yeah.
And the referee didn't miss a single tackle. He didn't knock on. And Salford could have been a lot more competitive that day if they'd have done what their coach wanted them to do. Again, one of the issues I had with what Ian Watson said was that he actually said that when the crowd turned against the referee favoured the opposition. That's a line that's been crossed for me.
Yeah.
And it almost gives licence to the fans to behave however they like towards the referee, which is what we're trying to get away from.
But I think from somebody that is...
I think it's out of
if
character.
Mac had said that, you would have been like, oh, what have you said this for? And it's kind of, not an expectation, but he's a bit controversial in the way he speaks. But someone like Watson is not that controversial in what he says, and he's normally very gracious in defeat, and he's normally very open and honest. So
he's one of our favourite coaches.
Yeah, so for him to say that, he must have... It's not an off-the-cuff comment, and reflecting on it, he's probably gone, I'm stupid. But at that very time, in that moment, that was his opinion of the game. And he's probably gone back and he's probably had a big slap on the wrist from Salford anyway for saying that. But
then Salford should have put out a statement the following morning or a few hours later saying, on reflection...
Yeah, and that's
Ian
the management of the situation, isn't it?
Reconsidered.
And that's the management situation.
Whilst he's very annoyed that Steve Ganson never picks up his phone, he's not Marcus Griffiths dealt with the game in a...
No, I'm not condoning the
but I just think,
abuse because
more
I
than
don't
that,
like it.
I just think the game needed to say to Ian Watson, who clearly breached whatever protocol there is, that, to say a nominal fine is not enough. At a time when we have got some real problems with recruiting referees, keeping referees who apparently have disappeared from the scene with no word about where they are or how their case is progressing. Perhaps justifiable criticism from Ian Watson that the hierarchy at the referees doesn't keep in contact enough with coaches who have complaints. All of that to me says we're hanging the referees out to dry at the moment.
Yeah.
And we're almost giving fans licence to jump on that bandwagon that we're not prepared to stop rolling.
Yeah, so it's more of a sense of protecting your referees rather than condemning somebody's words or actions.
So if Ian Watson wants to say that, and you go back over the tape, you say, look, these are all incidents where penalties were given, these are the incidents where tries have been conceded, we've reviewed it, and the referee got even from the RFL referees panel, got a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 for his handling of the game. Therefore, what you said is not commensurate with his performance.
Yeah.
We are going to fine you because you have breached the respect code of conduct.
Yeah.
Then I just think putting out, We've all made up, we've all kissed, we've realised that we should have been more in contact with Ian. Ian's a bit regretful of what he said, so because he breached the code, we've given him a nominal fine. Just say, no, he breached the code, he's had a fine. You don't have to say what it is, but don't put the word nominal in there. And for the next 2 games, he will not be able to sit with his coaching staff.
Yeah.
You're showing the fans that you're serious about protecting the referee. I'm not sure we can afford to lose another top line referee.
Well, we're down at the minute, aren't we?
Well, when you look at going back to the days of Carl Kirkpatrick, Phil Bentham, Jack Smith when he was full time, we're more than one down. And we're trying to bring in people like Marcus Griffiths, who was the referee at Salford, and say, look, you know, Liam Moore, we want you to fill the void from these guys that have left, who were at the top of their profession when they left.
But then also, again, has somebody spoken to him and said, I don't know if you heard what Ian Watson said, how do you feel about this? Because he might have gone,
I didn't handle it as well as I could have.
Yeah, he might have just gone, look, it's a post-match, not justifying it at all, but it could have been like, understandably, it's a post-match, you're very fired up, you know, you're very emotionally charged, comment that, yeah, he's an idiot for saying it, but look, I'm taking up the chin, I'm off. So, you know, where's the consideration? And I'm not saying that's justifiable.
No,
there still needs to be a level of...
We have an issue at the moment with, and I don't think we're any different to any other sport, match official intolerance.
Yeah.
And it's reaching a level, which I think has been... You asked why now people are talking about it. Because the wife of a referee who was at a Super League game last Friday, so it's either St Helens or Wakefield or Warrington, saying that her husband or partner, with the kids present, got abused from minute 1 to minute 80, and why should he put up with that, and why should they put up with that? And that's prompted a load of people to say they shouldn't, but amongst those are the people that are perpetrating that.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't at some point turn around and say we're going to protect these people, they're not, you know, if that referee, whoever he is, rings up this week and says to Steve Ganson, don't give me an appointment because I'm now suffering from the trauma of the abuse that's been thrown at me. Maybe one of the games this week won't have a referee.
Well, Nick says, should the ref strike? Walk off if abuse gets bad? They should do it.
Yeah, and that's just, it's
I'm not sure they can hear individual abuse when they're in the middle of a game. I think we have become grossly intolerant as a society of anything that we feel we have the right to complain about.
Yeah.
And actually, we've lost all sense
that's
of
more
perspective.
that's more the thing. I think, you know, it's like when you hear comments on Twitter and stuff. Unfortunately, you know, we've got to be careful with how we respond to them and what we say.
Absolutely.
Which is unfair, because if you're throwing a pop at me or somebody I know, why am I, because of the fact I play and I'm part of a badge and a business and a club, I can't respond how I want to? Which means you open up, and I would go as far as to say bullying, because there's no response, there's no need. The referee should never put up with that. It infuriates me. Whether I believe a ref has made a bad decision or not, do you know what? It's been made. There's nothing that I'm going to do. There's nothing that 12,000 people in the audience, the crowd are going to do to change that decision.
Exactly.
It's been made.
And
not in the history of refereeing, as a ref made a decision, 30 seconds later the crowd have responded, he's gone, sorry.
You're right.
I'm going to retract that. It's never going to happen.
And the other thing is, it's 1 second of 80 minutes.
Yeah.
You have got so much time to change the course of that game because it's in the players' hands more than the officials' hands. The official gives the feed at a scrum to the wrong team. That doesn't determine the outcome of the game.
But it's not even that. It's, you know, the spectators are at different angles. The referee has to manage. How much, you know, I'm all about, I'm undecided about the NRL and these two referees, but maybe that's the thing, because there's so many different angles. You have to move quickly. The play comes, the ball knocks on. Next thing you know, you're in the line of play. You have to move, turn around, and get back on side with it all. A referee's expected to keep up with the play, whereas all the players are having their moments of rest, whether they're on the edges and not involved in the action, whether they're being rotated and interchanged off. You know, that I don't think we give them enough credit for what they actually do.
And because we haven't got enough of them, they're doing 3 or 4 appointments every weekend.
Yeah.
So they're reffing on a Thursday night, they're touch judging on a Friday night, the video reffing on a Saturday night, they might be in the middle again on a Sunday afternoon. It's a hell of an onerous load. That we
However, there's got to be an element of understanding that you're going to make a decision that people aren't going to like. So,
you can't,
again,
you have to
not
have a bit
justifying.
Of a hard skin.
Yeah, it's that the level of your performance is going to be judged. Much like I get a little bit raggy on Twitter when somebody, let's say Richie Myler's stealing a wage. No, he's not. He's doing a job, and we don't always do it. I'm a teacher. Do you know what? Sometimes I get things wrong. Sometimes I might make a spelling error or whatever. You're not going to tell me I'm stealing a wage because I've made one bad decision in the classroom. And, okay, yeah, they're much more scrutinised in the sense that they're under performance based. But, one, they're working really hard off, and then nobody goes out there to drop a ball. Nobody goes out there to be rubbish. And when people suggest that they're just stealing a wage and going off on one, or the referees are making a bad decision, nobody sits there at the start of the game and goes, oh, guess what I'm going to do today?
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And
absolutely.
Do you know who say it? The people that sat on the bottoms that have very little athleticism about them.
Well,
yeah, I said
don't
it.
look over here this way. Don't look at this way.
I didn't look at you. I looked at the camera and said it. And so there is if you don't like what the refs are doing, don't go watch.
There is a balance to be struck, but I just think it's the wrong side of the line at the moment.
Yeah.
And match officials are being unfairly
Nobody deserves
lambasted.
to be.
And on this one occasion where a governing body could have supported the referee by making a small example of somebody who overstepped the mark,
yeah,
they didn't do it.
Just be kind. Be kind.
Yeah, that lasted about 5 minutes.
Oh, shut up.
Well, it did though, didn't it?
Be kind or be quiet.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's a new tagline I'm going to...
It's like you're going to
Hashtag
copyright
be kind or
get
be
on some
quiet.
t-shirts, yeah. Get on some t-shirts. So now we're going to be kind of about Wigan, because they beat Hull KR 30 points to 16. All the Wigan fans will be upset now, because there's nothing really need to say about this game, apart from the fact.
Well, Hull KR, I want to pay credit to Hull KR.
Pay credit to Hull KR first.
Who, again, showed great spirit in... There is always a team every year that, for whatever reason, has run over a black cat. And getting out the players that they want to get out, irrespective of how or effectively or not they may have recruited this year, is proving impossible. And yet again, they lost all 4 of their potential interchanges because of injuries. And we'll come on to why in a minute.
Yes.
But they still took Wigan all the way. I think a lot of people, like even hit on here doing predictions last week, we said, it could be 40 or 50, and there's been some hammerings. Hull KR were great, and there might be a quality issue with some of the players they've got, finding their feet at a higher level, but what Tony Smith has certainly imbued in his team is a never give up kind of spirit. Good luck to them.
But, however, right, I'm going to go in on this one. I'm going to go from a different angle, because people are saying, well, the referee should have done this, and they should do this, and players should be banned for longer. You're a player, right?
I am. Loosely.
Why would a professional rugby league player use a tackling technique which they know is dangerous, which they know can cause serious injury? Why would they do that to a fellow professional?
I'll have a biscuit while we think about that.
So, scenario. I am on my line. We're in a very tight match. They've got the ball 5 metres out. I'm going to stop the ball at all costs. And now I don't mean it's going to be... I'm not going to actively go. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to absolutely nail this person and hurt them. What my job is to stop that try. And, things go wrong, and we saw it at the start of the season, we've seen it, when Warrington came to Headingley. Things happen. But I don't think anybody intentionally goes out.
I'm not saying anyone has intentionally gone out,
No,
if you go in with that technique, and we're talking about the Ben Flower incident, because he's all been all over social media. Sky tweeted it out yesterday, helpfully. So
and he's been banned, so
he's been
he
banned
clearly
for 2
has
games.
done something.
And it should be longer because, whatever, anyway. But why would you do that? There's only 2 people in the tackle. He comes in as the 3rd man, but the tackle's already complete.
Which happens a lot, and players go for the ankle.
It's a timing thing, isn't it? Because he's made that decision to come in, and that might have not been complete at the moment he made that decision to come in. and he's come in and is committed, and it's very hard to stop yourself when you've set off and you're committed to something to then readjust quickly. You know, and I'm sure in training, you know, I don't play at half level that they do, but you know, you'll get one in that does one job, you get the second one in, third one in, if that's not going down, to get them to the floor. Your job is to get that player to the floor and win the floor. So how are you going to do it? Yeah, and it's a judgment, isn't it, that you make as a player there and then, because nobody's going to say, we won't be stood there in the line and I'll go, Phil, in you go. If you're not moving and I see something, I'm going to go. I'm not going to. There might be.
I won't be moving, though.
I mean, obviously, greatest front row ever here. But
I still won't be moving.
I've got your back. It's fine because I'll be flying across, being that third man, making a bad judgment call.
I understand everything you've said about the heat of the battle and the decisions that you make. I just wonder whether there's something wider afoot here. That it's very rare that two players are up for the same offence from the same club, and that, again, somebody tweeted some footage that's not evidence, that there was a third player involved in a very similar incident wearing the same colours in the same game, and that it's a. Does it become a ploy then? I mean, I am absolutely 100% sure that Adrian Lamb will not be saying, I want you to go in and hurt the opposition. But something is clearly wrong in the defensive decisions of how a team are going to defend. If a third man in is told to attack the lower limbs of somebody who is still standing.
But isn't that's what the third man's for?
But if you do it at a level around about the knees, it's incredibly dangerous.
But
if you do it around the ankles.
But you'd never go for the ankle. So
or
if
calves.
but if there were two men in the tackle, and we were front on, and I saw you an open side, and the only bit I could get to from your hips below, I'd probably aim. I mean, I wouldn't, because I'm too big and I'm really rubbish at tackling. To go.
That tackle where you pushed him over.
That's all. That was third man in. I would aim to go mid thigh.
Yeah.
The whole technique, but in that instance, you're going down. So these guys are not small, so they're gonna have to go down low. You can't go. Wait, am I at the right height to make this safe? And it would be. They'll call it in training. Chop his legs, and that'll be a phrase that many people in rugby league have heard. Just chop his legs. How are you gonna chop some of his legs? You need to get them tight, squeeze.
But if
I'm not justifying this by any way.
If they do,
no. I think it's important we get your perspective because you are out there. As you say, there's a difference between the men supering and women supering, whatever. But your thought process is interesting in this case.
But I'm in the women's game, very difficult to tackle and get down. And the amount of times people, and especially since coming back from ACL, have gone to get a knee, and I'm like, why would you want to do that?
That's what I don't understand is the fact that.
But I don't think they mean get my knee.
No.
That has come back because it's stronger than ever. Whatever. I think if you hit me at my knees, I'm going to automatically have that jerk reaction. I'm going to go
we
down.
used to have something called a chicken wing tackle, and that was ruled out of the game.
What's a chicken wing tackle?
Shoulder, attacking the shoulder joint.
Ooh, nasty.
And I just think whether the timing is intentional or otherwise, whether the target is intentional or otherwise, what has happened is Hull KR have lost two players through injuries to knees that look like not only were they avoidable, but also have been deemed by the match review panel to be foul play.
Yeah.
So at that point, intention of the player, I don't think is an issue. It's how do we eradicate this? Because unfortunately for Hull KR, they've come really close in a game that we all thought they probably will be overwhelmed. But one of the reasons is they've lost players during the game. The other thing is they may now have lost these players for a longer length of time. And the Wigan players who've committed the incidents may well, one is banned, another is going to get a ban. But that's not going to help Hull KR. So how do you eradicate people doing that? You give them long bans. Is 2 games enough?
But it's like saying, so like Ben Masilla the other day on Mellor was awful. The forearm to the face.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, so we've stopped
I thought that was handled brilliant though.
No, but
because Mellor was clearly slipping.
Yeah.
And
No, but I'm saying, just in the grand scheme, like, had Mella not slipped and Ben gone up there like that, and Ben not stopped and genuinely being sorry for it afterwards, and most players wouldn't have done what he did, whether intentional or not. They wouldn't have hung around and been like, they would have stepped away. So probably would have not looked as innocent as Ben did. I mean, it was completely innocent. I know, and we're trying to stop this whole high tackle, but there are occasions where things happen and it looks terrible. So how do you, apart from saying you're only now allowed to tackle between the hips and the chest?
I think that the Murdoch-Marcel thing was handled brilliantly. Through a limited fault of his own, he couldn't stop his actions.
But that was only handled brilliantly because of his reaction and the fact that Miller slipped.
And the referee sin-binned him.
Yeah.
In these occasions, the referee didn't. It's been referred to the match review panel. The match review panel has 2 incidents from the same club for the same offence. Now, I'm not pointing the finger at that club, but to stop that becoming an epidemic, and other clubs saying, well, it looks as though they're not going to be heavily punished, we need to get it out again.
But then that depends on the side that the ref stood at, how often he uses his touch. Again, come back to the whole 2 refs on the pitch. I don't like it. I don't know if it works or not, but obviously clearly the NRL is much better at penalising and calling things out.
Communication seems.
Yeah, and I don't think the communication between the refs and the touches, unless it's on an edge or a try or anything, nothing in the middle of the pitch. And you forget that they have that side angle, whereas the referee has a skewed front angle that sometimes can't see the other side of the ruck.
But Oliver Partington's potentially got a 5-match ban. It's been referred, it's a grade D. It may only be 2, but potentially it's 5.
But then is that not the ban you're looking for?
Then why has Ben Flower got 2? Why is one we need to refer to the disciplinary and the other is we've graded it such that we can give him a 2-match ban? Is there a lack of consistency?
Should tweet Rodstad.
Well, apparently he's got it.
Has he?
Somebody has.
Good.
But I think like with going back, there is a similarity with the Ian Watson thing here. That what sort of message does the game want to send out? So Ian might be the unfortunate victim of, he was the guy at the time that was the straw that broke the camel's back about referees. So the punishment he gets is more to the very maximum rather than the lenient, because the game is trying to make a statement about referees and somebody has to pay a price for that. Gone on too long, we're not going to allow it anymore. That's our line in the sand. Unfortunately, Ian was stood on the line when we drew it. He's got the 3-match ban and the heavy fine. Do we now need to be doing this with the reoccurrence of what used to be termed the cannonball tackle? Do we now need to say, right guys, it's not 2 matches for you and potentially 5. It's a similar offence. It's an offence that we don't want. Now, player welfare is really important. I'm sorry, but if this is creeping back into the game, if there's a team that needs to go and look at its tackling technique in training, it's going to have to do it without 2 players for 8 matches.
But then do you just say to that specific team, look, you've got X amount of cautions or fines or match bans for this, we're looking at you specifically, because other people tend to not have that, and therefore for us at the minute it's not a league-wide problem, it's a specific club problem, which then I think is more of a tackle technique training situation rather than a generalised problem.
But the best way of getting the message over is for them to be without 2 of their star names for a period of time that is going to be.
But then is it not a club caution in the sense that if this continues to happen from your players, we are going to deem the coaching staff responsible for this?
Well,
therefore, as a club,
that
because
would
you
be
can't
fine.
penalise a coaching staff. We can, but do you know what I mean? Like,
but that hasn't been said.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think that would be the way to begin it. Like, I'm not anywhere high up. That's just my opinion, but
it seems lenient to me. But I'm sure Rod will get us the reasons why.
We'll find out, won't we? David sent me a great email about ways to improve the Challenge Cup. I'll save that for next week because we're running low on time.
Well, the thing is, we'll have seen some Challenge Cup.
We will have done. And hopefully the draw will be next week as well. That'd be exciting as well, won't it, for the 6th round? The draw. Well, Danica, so you've got a new kit. It's yellow.
Nice.
Yeah. No. I think I'm personally going to look like a Teletubby.
Oh.
I think it's La La.
It's got a little screen in the middle as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll,
and then the way I went, when I wear my hair like this, I look like Lala from the Teletubbies because I'm not the smallest person. No, it's a pretty kit. It's a nice one. It's
might be the second best kit in the Women's Super League this year. Phil will agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll probably agree too, but I'm not even allowed to say that.
New coach.
Yes.
Yeah, new coach. Yeah,
she's busy. She's everywhere.
Woman at Man of Steel panel.
Yes.
Yes.
She got any time to coach you?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
She's flogging it.
What is she like? Because obviously she was a player very recently. You're all mates with her. Has she been able to manage that swift transition to?
She's a very busy woman, isn't she?
Giving you all rollerkins and stuff.
The thing about Lois is that the public's opinion of Lois, she is a wonderful, wonderful, lovely woman. She is the hardest working player I've ever played alongside, in the sense that when we went to the World Cup, everybody knew she was going to get the starting 9 shirt, but she would made sure by working extra hard to make sure she got it. And that's Lois's mentality. That she would want everybody at World Cup fitness just for this league. Because why are you not fighting to be the best? The best you can be. And it's about the individual person being the best person for that job, which is fantastic, which means, we've gone from Adam that's like, yeah, guys, we can do a bit better, to Lois is like, no, let's go again. Okay. And it's just that level of professionalism that I think that Adam went out to Papua New Guinea and said there's no difference in professionalism between the England camp and the Leeds Rhinos camp. If not, we were marginally more professional because we've been doing it for longer as a team. Where with Adam we kind of push him over a little bit, maybe because the whole women's rugby type of thing, and we know what to mention to him to make him cringe, or
she's one of you can't do that with her.
She's one of us. She knows the game better than anybody else. She knows how we work. She knows how to deal with us emotionally and physically and mentally, and
know what's acceptable as an excuse and what isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And therefore it's using that as like psychological warfare. We're like, but we can't use that with her at the minute. No, but she's great, and
good appointment. Good appointment for the women's game.
I think the only appointment that we could have possibly had, in the sense that Adam is hard shoes to follow if you're a male and you're maybe not in the game, or whereas we've essentially got a clean slate, but it's somebody that's respected by everybody in the game. I don't care who you are, whether you like playing against her or not, whether you like her as a person or not. In the game of rugby league, she is an out and out, stalwart of the game. She's fantastic. One of the best players that ever graced England and the Super League, and the next natural step. So it's really weird because I want to say like I wish her every success, even though I'm in the because there's a lot of pressure to walk into a head coach's role, coming off the back of 4 out of 6 trophies in 2 seasons with Adam Cuthbertson, who is well known as your coach. She's also, she's got a finger in so many pies now, and that's down to the RFL and the Super League, that I've realised that she is a commodity in the sense that not only for the men's game does she know everything, but for the women's game, and she brings everything of that into coaching. And when she's in that coaching role, that is her first and foremost priority, is us, which is amazing. And I think she's mentioned something, or she gives a suggestion, and everybody listens so intently. And I've played with Lois for years, and I'm a pal, and I know lots of stories about her and can joke about it, but when she speaks, you forget about that, and you genuinely listen to your coach direct the session, which I think is such a tough thing to do, but she's managing it. So, I do wish her every luck in the weirdest. I do hope we are successful for her, and that what she's doing, because she's not coming and just running off the back of Adam's wave. She's changing stuff. She's mixing things up. She's taking plays out.
Kit.
Yeah, I think that's Leon's little design.
Hopefully there's no kit clashes then this year as there were last year.
I don't think anybody else is going to be wearing yellow.
Why were Hull allowed, and I'm talking back to the men's game briefly, why were they allowed 2 kits that were dark? I don't understand that. And there'll be a Hull derby in the women's
Challenge
Cup.
First ever. Brilliant.
wait in the next round. Well, we don't try you.
I do. Just for you.
Well, you would. You know what my second favourite team is? You know, I've been through this.
St Helens, yeah.
Tim Saints to win, yeah. You know, Tim Saints to win, so we know what's going to happen.
Do you know what? I think that they could do a good job this year, and I shouldn't say that, and I want us to be as successful as we possibly can, but I really think Saints, they have had a lot of heartache. They're not afraid to say, look, what are Leeds doing that we're not doing, where can we step up? They've recruited well, they've got more backing from the club this season.
Obviously,
really interesting.
If Wakefield are not in the grand final, which I hope they will be, but I don't think they will be, you know, I think it'll be Saints on Leeds.
All the Cats fans just switched off.
That's okay.
Bye Felicia.
It's okay. It's okay. Talk more about that after we go off air. Right, so it's prediction time. Won't bother with the Challenge Cup because, well, should we?
Yeah.
Oh, go on then. What was?
But we won't.
We don't do all of them. No.
Yeah.
We won't do Whitehaven versus Dewsbury. We'll start just to upset all the Whitehaven fans. We'll start with
Dewsbury have had a great start to the season,
have.
by the way, and that's gone under the radar.
Oh, we didn't mention the championship. Apologies. Unbeaten starts. Toulouse, Lee, Featherstone. London, big win for them at York yesterday. York still without a win, as are Whitehaven. Dewsbury, as you mentioned, great start to the season for them, winning away at Oldham yesterday as well. Blitzed them in the second half. League One, Hunslet, Bowen, Newcastle all unbeaten. 2 wins from 2 at the start of the season in League One. That will annoy all the people who tune in just to hear about the championship in League One. But you've got your own programmes on the Our League app, so go watch them.
Problems.
Pushing away the viewers.
No, well, I've been doing that for 6 years now. Certainly I've done it tonight. Right, prediction time. We'll start with the game as Toronto host Huddersfield at the John Smith Stadium in Huddersfield in the Challenge Cup, 5th round.
And Wednesday night.
Yes, Wednesday night rugby on the live on the Our League app. I would be watching, but I'm at work.
Huddersfield by 20 points.
I think Toronto realise that there is only one aim this year, and that is survival in Super League.
I don't think they're going to turn up. Turn up, but
they're not going to get to the Challenge Cup final. It's not part of their remit this year. I don't think they need. I think they need to get away from Super League form. The Challenge Cup final is a distraction for them. Quinn Naguati's back and could play. So yeah, Huddersfield will want to keep the confidence that they've got. Huddersfield by 30.
Yeah, I'd say Huddersfield by 24. We'll go with that. Friday night, 2 games in the Challenge Cup. Featherstone versus Hunslet. 2 unbeaten sides, mate.
Leeds A versus Leeds.
Whatever Featherstone's called.
Leeds A versus Leeds B.
yeah, Leeds C, B versus C. We got there.
You knew what I mean.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Well, these reserves fit in this though. Surely they're B, so it's C and B.
No, because the Leeds 18. I've got people playing in Featherstone. The reserves is separate to the A.
Anyway,
the
analogy was fine.
Yeah. Too many letters.
Featherstone by 12.
Both teams made a great start to the season in their respective leagues. I think James Webster's doing a really good job at Featherstone at the moment because, again, you don't know every week what resources are going to be until they turn up. Gary Thornton's pleased and happy with how Hunslet have started the season.
You get the emails as well.
But Featherstone will win this by 24.
Yeah, Fev by 18. Also on Friday night in the Challenge Cup, it's a historic meeting between 2 great names, Wakefield versus Bradford. Memories for me of Bradford Northern and Neil Summers' try, which wasn't a try, which we referred to plenty of times on this programme. I may well on Friday when I'm pitchside take a picture of where he put the ball down, where Robin Whitfield gave the try. Wakefield versus Bradford.
Was it in the stand?
It may as well.
Tell me you're not dwelling on this at all, though, are you?
No, that was only in 1993. I was ball boying. I was there.
And the referee still didn't change his
No.
Rude. I think this might be the first time ever, Richard. This is just for you. I'm going Wakefield.
Well, thank you.
And I'm gonna. I don't know. You know, we've seen Bradford upset some teams this season.
Played in Super League.
Yeah, I mean, not talking about that. But based on how Wakefield have been playing, you know, and I think if we can get, you know, if Wakefield get the ball to the edges, that's unstoppable, and I don't think Bradford have quite got the pace for that. So I'm gonna go Wakefield. I'm gonna give you 18.
18.
I think it might be a bit closer than that, but again, Chris Chester needs a result to take into Super League. I'm not sure Bradford's ambition this year is to have a Challenge Cup run. They're not on telly.
No. The media darlings last year, now they're nowhere.
Wakefield by 8.
I'll go for us by 20. Go on, Ricky.
Is that all?
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I've seen us in the cup before.
He's notoriously bad.
I've seen us in the cup before and what happens.
I think Wakefield could have a good cup run this year
Well,
if they can get a settled team and not injuries.
I'd quite like to get a suit and go to
No, I don't think I haven't got that far. But you don't need to win too many games.
No.
Yeah.
On Sunday, now this is an interesting one.
So you're not doing Leeds and Catalan?
No, I'm going to go back to the Super League in a minute.
All right.
On Sunday, this is a potential cup set, as annoying people call it these days.
Oh, a cup
As
set.
Old Kingston Rovers host unbeaten Lee Centurions. And Hull have got no players. The Rovers. And they've got loads of them.
It could be interesting. Ooh, curveballed. No, I'll stick to Hull. I'll stick to Hull by 2.
I have a feeling that in the same way that for Toronto the Challenge Cup is a distraction to the real business, for Hull KR survival is the only thing that matters. They have got a lot of injuries, they probably will rest players.
Yeah.
Lee have got nothing to lose. Lee get into the next round and playing another Super League team is the start of a money spinner. I think we've seen it a couple of times with Lee that they've made quarterfinals.
Yeah.
They have an intention to be back in Super League. They need to take a Super League scalp, and they're more than capable of doing it. So I'll go Lee by 4.
I was going to say Lee by 4 as well. We can't do Newcastle because we don't know who they're going to play. Sheffield, who've not had a great start to the season, taking on Workington Town. I mean, these just going to pick
I'm going to go Workington
Workington.
by 6. Just because I've just
Cool.
picked it out of there
Yeah,
and I've made it.
that's fair enough.
Sheffield are a decent cup team at the moment. They hold the 1895 Cup. Their win in London, their only win of the season so far, was in the Challenge Cup. So I'm going Sheffield by 12.
I'll go Sheffield by 4. Widnes versus Swinton.
Widnes.
The Cup Kings.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think it'd be quite close. I'll probably go Widnes by 4.
I think Widnes will win. I'd like Swinton to win for Martin Kellner. I don't think they will. I'll go Widnes by 10.
Widnes by 12. And York, could they get a morale boosting win as they talk on media darlings Rochdale Hornets?
I think they need to, don't they? Is that going to be another confidence game? Nothing to lose, throw it all in. Let's get a win. Let's build. I don't know, York. I'm going to go York. Rochdale, though. York. No, I'm going to go York by 8.
I think York need the win. I think James Ford's side have found it's more difficult this year because people have wised up to the fact that you can't take them lightly because of their successes. They seem to be edging slightly better each week. Good performance against London this week, but not enough to win it. And Rochdale are rebuilding after relegation, so I'm going to go York by 10.
And we've got, York by 8. If not, Rochdale have got better colours. Right, Super League, Thursday.
What was it like Wakefield?
Yeah, Thursday. Won as much as Wakefield recently as well. Thursday, Super League, Hull FC versus Warrington in the teams that are back derby.
I'm just going to go for a Hull just because it's home. I don't think either of them are very particularly confident. But, yeah. Hull by 4.
Hull have got injuries but Lee Sow out for a game.
I believe so.
Yeah, 1 game.
So I think that tilts the balance in favour of Warrington. Hull have recruited so much around their pack this year, and that several members of that pack are not now available at the moment. So I think Warrington will play exactly as they did against Castleford. They'll 5 drives and a kick, and Warrington will win by a golden point drop goal, and it won't be Mark Sneed.
No, Sneed. They've got to hope they
fella from the other team.
Got to hope they win the toss in, haven't they? I've gone for Hull, and I've gone for the exact same number as Danica. I have gone for Hull by 4. Should be an exciting game on the telly on Thursday. Friday, this might not be an exciting game on the telly. It's Friday the 13th, and it probably will be for the Salford Red Devils as they host the devilish Wigan Warriors.
The Jackson Hastings down.
Yeah, pushing a lot of pressure on him for that, aren't they? The return, but I think Wigan's form at the minute. You can't deny how good they are and how they grow. They're genuinely one of the teams that are really growing and progressing, aren't they? So I'm going to go Wigan, and I think it's going to be quite a significant win. I think I'm going to go by 16.
I think Salford showed great improvement in France. He said, having watched the highlights only, because that's all that was available. And but travelling back from the Dragons will take a bit of a toll. But they have had an extra day to prepare because Wigan played on the Sunday. I just think Wigan are pretty miserly at the moment. I don't think Adrian Lamb will have been too impressed with. He might have been publicly, but I think he would have looked at. It's the first time this year they've conceded 3 tries and a bit sloppy in the first half. So I am going to go Wigan, but I think it'd be closer than that. I think Salford may not yet have turned a corner, but we'll have seen some positive signs, and there's a lot of ex-Wigan players in that Salford team with a point to prove. So I'll go Wigan by 4.
I'm going to go Wigan as well. They could be 4 points clear the top of Super League by the end of the weekend, depending on how results go elsewhere and if another game is played, which we'll talk about in a moment. So I'm going to go for Wigan by 12. I'm not sure if there's any point in us talking about Catalans versus Leeds, because I don't think it will be played. But if it was...
So do you think it's not behind closed doors, just not at all?
Oh, that's a good point.
But then do you ask the players their opinion, or does it go based on something else?
Well, I again, as a player, you are the person to ask.
I'd play. I'm not fussed by any of this stuff.
We are saying... Yeah, but we're saying that we're not going to... The potential that the game might not go ahead because of the potential transfer of a virus, but you want to put the players in the environment where that virus is going to be transferred, because they're still going to go to airports, they're still going to walk through town and city centres, they're still going to meet local people who may or may not be infected. As a manager of that bunch of players, would you say, if you're not prepared to stage the game because you think there's a risk, we're not sending our players over?
That's exactly it, isn't it? Like, if there's a doubt, I guess it shouldn't be.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be behind closed doors. It just shouldn't
be happen. Yeah. But I think my fear for Leeds is just we're on that run, aren't we now? We haven't had a chance to react to a week off yet, and I don't think Catalan away is the time to switch off.
Then there is a massive issue if the game doesn't go ahead for the Dragons. This will be the 3rd game. How do you fit in a midweek trip to Perpignan? It's getting to the point where some serious decisions are going to have to be made. But I don't think the game's going to go ahead. Which is a shame, because I'm scheduled to be there.
Oh, well, lucky. But if it was to go ahead, they're missing Sam Tompkins. We've got the whole Gail Maloney bounce off, which I think will be a great show, and it will see if Gailey can handle that pressure.
And a very big pack, which Leeds succumbed to when they played Hull in the first round of the season.
However, I think slightly more intelligent playing up the forwards now and how they're playing and how they're using the forwards. I'd like to see Leeds get the win, and I would say that regardless anyway, but I think it will be very tight, and I reckon it might come down to a drop goal.
Leeds by 2, but it won't go ahead.
I've gone Catalans by 2. And finally, Sunday afternoon, Castleford Tigers versus St Helens, 5:30 kick-off, because that's when the pitch shuts. Danica.
Well, Saints aren't on form. Cass are a bit wobbly, but they're a young squad. Probably would have not gone easy on them. At home. Are Saints about to get back on form now? You're saying yeah? If you're saying yeah, I'm going to go Saints then. By 4.
I just think there's a real resilience about this Saints team, and they will be annoyed that they let their standards slip last week, which again, as we said throughout the show, Huddersfield have pulled off the result of the season, and it didn't get enough credit. But I do think that the way St Helens handled defeat in the World Club Challenge, they'll do the same this week. I think whilst Castleford are steady, I'm not sure they can match the power of the St Helens forwards. So I'm going Saints by 6.
And I'm going to go for Castleford. I don't know why, but I'll put them to win by 4. So we'll see what happens on Sunday afternoon at 3:30 at the Jungle. Danica, thank you very much for coming in.
No, thank you very much for giving me a ring. Hours ago.
You can have the last biscuit as a reward.
That's fine. The
It's
flowers
not
are
allowed.
okay.
Banned. No one's allowed biscuit. No one's allowed that last biscuit. Will be here next week.
I'll take it
That little bit of mould on.
Yeah, who'll be here next week? No idea.
Depends if we're self-isolated.
To do it on Skype or something. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Even all the people who said we didn't talk about the games enough. I don't know what you want.
Guess too good.
Yeah, talk about other stuff.
Talk rubbish.
And
Insight.
I've no idea what all these people talk about fridges are on Facebook, but I reckon it's code for drugs. So just say no.